Hey everyone, Z38 here. We're going to be talking about what to do when your ADC sucks. We've all had that Lucian who just cannot press R the right way. And before we get into the video, if you look at the top right, if you haven't watched my roaming video, you should definitely do that first, because it's a very comprehensive roaming guide, and in order to capitalize on anything in this video, you should really see that one. Alright, so first things first is what is a support, right? So a lot of people, when they play support, they're thinking that they're the support for the AD carry, and that's completely wrong. You're actually the support for the team. So the problem here is, like, everyone thinks that they need to support their AD carry, but there's a 25% chance that your AD carry is the worst player on the team, because you're obviously the best player, so like out of four, so someone's always the worst player. So if your ADC is, then like you can't, then you obviously just lose the game because you're trying to support someone who sucks and they can't carry. So therefore, the first thing you need to do is, either when you're in lobby or in loading screen, you need to use OPGG, Mobalytics, like Face Check, Professor, whatever you use, and you need to identify your carry. Now, when you identify your carry, that's when then you can start to play around them, right? So let's say your mid laner is, actually we'll do this. We'll go through kind of what happens if your top laner is the carry, what to do if your mid laner is the carry, and like the jungler. Because I assume everyone kind of knows how to play when your ADC is actually a good player. All right. So a few things. So when you find yourself like roaming, pretty much this is all about roaming. So I'm just gonna tell you what you can do to sort of help, the person who's supposed to be your carry. So let's say you go on OPGG and your Gangplank top has 80 games and a 60% win rate. The guy's smurfing, he's insane. So your job that game is going to be nurturing Gangplank and supporting him and making sure he does not tilt, making sure, he's okay up there, having a good time. So there's actually three things you can do. First, you can, okay, I don't have any pink words. I don't know how to, can you buy? I don't think you can buy. All right. Just say have, actually, that didn't work. Hang on. Oh, it's still capped at 2, okay. Okay, so let's say you blue side, etc. You find yourself in a situation where you can roam, uh, or you're roaming for a certain reason, and let's say the wave is like in the middle. You can always just come in number one for a gank. Always just pretend to be the jungler. Uh, you know, give him that gank. Thresh has a lot of kill potential, so landing a hook or just running up, holding your hook like a smart player, and using Flay or like pressing R and forcing their flash or something like that. Even just getting a flash would be really hot. Like that would be really helpful for him. Okay, number two is be there for a counter gank, right? So you can be there to gank, but you can also be there to counter. So if, let's say you were deep warding bot lane, or let's say your mid laner got a deep ward here, your jungler. If you do not see the enemy jungler bot, that means he's probably top. So if you find yourself in a roaming situation again, you can come top side, and if you think Gangplank is going to be ganked, you want to be there to save him. You do not want him to tilt. You want him to play, well, to the best of his ability. Maybe you can get a double kill even if you really outplay their enemy jungler or something like that. Okay, number three is actually just to drop wards or some deep vision for him. So like, if he has no wards here, let's say his lane is pushed up already and he's recalling. Maybe put a pink here. Maybe, throw a ward in the try down for him. Maybe throw a ward over here. Just maybe like some deep wards, depending on the jungler, obviously. Like if it's an Elise jungle, you probably don't want to be doing this at like level 3. But if they have like a Zac or something, a tank, you can probably get away with that because they can't kill you. So you can deep ward for him. So now look, if you're Gangplank, coming back to lane, wow, look at this. Now you'll be able to see if a jungler's coming. Obviously you won't have like all these wards, but even just one of these could be a huge, benefit to him, and, ensure that he's able to carry. And by doing this, you are like playing the support role properly because you are supporting, your carry, and your carry will change from game to game. Okay, so now let's talk about what if your carry is jungle, right? Let's say you load up in loading screen, you have a Nidalee with 100 games and like a 70% win rate. You're like, all right, this guy's a challenger smurf. What are you going to do to ensure that he gets fed? Well, number one is, again, if you find yourself in a roaming situation, like as always, you will see where he is in the map. So if like he's taking blue buff right now and your mid lane's pushed in, roam up here, force a gank, throw your lantern, get him to come, get a 3-man gank mid. Maybe you know that they're Elise is topside or something. Just start spam pinging him like, hey, you're up, like, he's maybe up 1 kill or 2 kills or maybe no kills, but like because one of these deep wards or something that you have, or maybe you just think your mid lane's pushed in so you can go for this invade and just go for the invade, like play around him, like sometimes your junglers are very not proactive, so be the proactive one, spam ping them, make them come, like force them to come. If they don't listen, not much you can do there, maybe roam somewhere else, but most of the time they'll listen if you just type trust me, and they'll listen. So yeah, number one is pretty much when it's your jungler, you can gank with the jungler pretty much. The other thing that you should be doing every game, which automatically helps your jungler, is kind of getting deep wards, in the enemy jungle, just like warding there and recalling or something, if you aren't able to do anything else. Or maybe for an early Rift Herald, this is one of the things I like doing, is I spam ping my jungler and we get like a Rift Herald right at, 8 minutes, 9 minutes. And, that's able to convert into extra gold for the jungler, right? Because I'll use it on the plates. And yeah, then another tidbit is if your jungler is supposed to be your carry and they're a little bit behind, like let's say your Nidalee is 0-2 and he's sort of tilting a little, maybe throw pink wards in your own jungle to make sure that he doesn't die in his own jungle from like the enemy jungler or the enemy mid laner. So that's a really good way to help play around your jungler as well. Okay, so if your carry is mid lane, what do you do? Well, you pretty much just roam mid, and you can come through like the bush, you can come through. I usually like coming from around back over here because I just feel like you have more. It takes like an extra 2 seconds or 3 seconds, but I think it's just worth it because usually they'll have this warded. So yeah, just by avoiding that ward is pretty big. They won't see it coming. Also, you can ward for your mid laner, so maybe just put a pink. Okay, I don't have a pink, but put a pink like here, in one of these bushes, or maybe just put a pink in the river. That's a big one, so you'll see the jungler if they're trying to come into mid, or if their jungler is trying to counter jungle. Basically, it's pretty simple because mid is like in the middle of the map. There's not really like there's not too much more you can do here besides ganking and like counter ganking again. If you see the jungler's top side, or if the jungler just killed dragon, maybe run mid lane because the jungler might be looking to run mid. Things like that. That come with practice and just sort of tracking the jungler overall. So I'll just do a quick recap. Basically, if your carry's top lane, you need to make sure that he doesn't tilt. So when you find yourself in a roaming situation, it's a good idea to either ward for him. You can throw a pink down, or you can maybe get a couple deep wards in the enemy jungle, so that way he can survive any ganks. Number two is you can counter gank. So if the enemy jungler's top, and like the enemy jungler's top, they might be looking for a gank because your guy has like a 400 gold bounty, then you'll be there for the counter gank and you can lantern him out and save him. And lastly, you can just be there for a gank. So if they're pushing in hard, look for that kill, because top lane has so much room, you can definitely get a kill off that. If your carry's in the jungle, you can pretty much force your jungle to do things with you by spam pinging, and they should listen if you type trust me. and you can get some early Rift Heralds, or maybe you can invade with the enemy jungler, like a level 4 invade randomly at their Raptors. You know, if their jungler's on it, then it's pretty much a free kill or a free flash. And it's just one of those things that's like really random. It'll tilt their jungler, then your jungler will be able to get camps, like, you know, morale booster, etc. You can also ward for your jungler, so if he's playing like really aggressively, maybe if you ward his bot jungle or something like that, if he's playing aggressively and counter jungling top, because then the enemy jungle will want to take like his bot side, so then you can like prevent that, and that like gives more farm for your jungler. And yeah, pretty much warding and tracking the enemy jungler, and just sort of when you find yourself in a roaming situation, just run to wherever your jungler is and like look for a gank, like force him to do a 3-man gank somewhere. And lastly, if your carry is mid lane, again, you can be there for the counter ganks, you can gank yourself, and again, you can ward for him in certain areas to make sure that he's nice and safe in his lane. Alright, hope you guys learned something, and I'll see you next time.